Hello, everybody, and welcome to another hair-raising, exciting, fun-filled, adventurous episode of Radiorama, where I show you how to work on primarily radios, radio electronics, tube-powered electronics, stereos, record players, that kind of stuff. You get the clue. And today we have another set that was donated by one of our members. I think he's probably watching, and thanks a lot. We really appreciate it. And this is an Emerson model. I just looked it up right before I started the video, and already I've forgotten what it is. Let's see. Model 756. And it's an AM only radio. They made two different versions of this set. They had an AM and FM model, and then they had a AM only, and this is apparently it. And it's interesting. I've only ever seen this in either Bakelite brown or black or cream colored, I believe. I've never seen it in red. I'm not sure what's up with Americans during the early 50s, but it seemed like until we get into the mid 50s, they were pretty boring and drab as far as choice of color. But someone actually decided to be a little daring. They got the red radio. According to the sticker that was left on it, it is a 7-tube radio, which means it's probably a little more sensitive. It's a little bit on the bigger side. It looks like the back is intact. Most of these backs usually go missing, but this one's still here. It's a little dog-eared around the edges. That's okay. That probably means the tubes have been replaced once or more in its lifetime. It may have had work done on it. I don't know what the working condition is. Cord is not great. It's so you do this and it kind of doesn't bounce back. It's stiff. Now, I haven't tried it out, and what you should do, yes, what you should do is bring it up on a variac. You should do that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and power it up and see what happens. And I'm going to sit here at the ready for the possibility that it might go south. I don't see any pilot lamp here. I don't hear any noise. That's good. That's bad. That is a very, very, very common issue that happens on these sets, which is you've got failed filter capacitors. Those are the electrolytic capacitors that are essentially responsible for creating nice, clean B+ DC current to the set. And they have gone the way of the dodo bird. They are no good. It's no big deal. It happens on probably about 65 to 75% of the sets that ever come in. It's normal. The electrolytics are essentially what I would refer to as a soft component. They are like bread. They go bad with time. So let's take the back off and take a look under the hood. Well, here is the chassis pulled from the case. And first thing I noticed, and I kind of hate seeing this, is it's got quite a bit of cadmium plating corrosion. See this kind of how this chalky yellow appearance? That's what that is. And if I have a set that's like this, I will generally come in with a wet rag and just wipe it off. Cadmium is considered potentially carcinogenic, and like all other heavy metals, you don't want to inhale it. And so I'd rather mitigate that possibility by wiping it down. Meanwhile, if we look underneath here, we have the innards, and it looks like this has come loose. This is the electrolytic capacitor that was likely installed from the factory, and it is the guy that is bad, and it has two values. Let's see, does it have two values? Yes, two values. 80 and 40. The black, of course, is the common negative that they both share. I think this blue cap has been replaced. It looks like it's kind of jerry-rigged in there. And the other thing I'm looking for, which is key and important, is what we call the grounding cap, because this is a figuratively called a hot chassis set, even though it's, in my book, a floating hot chassis. You see this cap here? It's soldered to ground. And that means that that's the other end of the incoming line cord, AC. Because back then they were smart enough to understand, well, if you have one end of the AC line cord going to chassis ground, someone could get the crap shocked out of them. So why not mitigate or eliminate some of that possibility by putting a cap between you and chassis, and like drastically reduce the amount of current that could get to you. And this value is probably way too high, and it's the wrong kind of cap. We need a cap, a safety cap, to replace that with. But like I said, before I get too carried away, I'm going to definitely clean this chassis up. I don't want any of this stuff to come airborne. Then again, I'm OCD about toxins in general. This has a big speaker in it. It's not rubbing, meaning I don't hear any friction noises. And indeed, it is a 7-tube set. It probably has like an extra 12 BA6 or something like that. Just a little more added sensitivity. Alright, well, I cleaned off all of the loose cadmium powder. I wore gloves, and I also washed my hands afterwards, but no, it's not perfect. There's some people out there, for some reason, who feel that they need to scrub down and make their cabinets or their chassis like shine. And all you're doing is you're putting a lot of cadmium dust in the air, and that's not good. So I cleaned it inside and out, so now we're ready to proceed with the recapping job. And as I was alluding to earlier, this is the culprit. This is the electrolytic capacitor with the two values, the 80 and the 40 microfarad cap. Looks like we have one cap that is spewed its ends off. That cap might be shorted. And then we have our aforementioned safety cap. I'm going to replace all three of these guys and see if that restores working ability. Alright, so we have got the two electrolytics installed here. And what I did is I ran a jumper cable for the common ground, which is here. And what I try to do is you want to kind of make sure you mount these guys away from sources of heat. So you don't want to mount them over the underside of the tube sockets or near giant resistors. So you just kind of make sure that they've got a little air to breathe. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a test fire and see if we've gotten any improvement. Someone did kind of a lame job of soldering the antenna back in. Both of those connections were loose. I'm guessing it's probably someone with a giant solder pistol gun or whatever they're called. That is an unhappy sound. That, to me... Oh, wait a minute. I feel like an idiot. Okay, guys, so I'll show you that I, too, can be a total idiot. I wound up... No, never mind. I thought I'd soldered... I thought I got my leads backwards. No. That sounds to me like we've got a bad rectifier or a bad output tube. In fact, I remember when I was looking at this earlier, the output tube here looks pretty god-awful. I mean, I know looks are deceiving, but you see that brown sort of tinge there? It's not a good sign. So, I have no idea if this is good or not. Well, it probably doesn't help that there's water from when I cleaned it. Doing all kinds of things wrong in this video. Feel free to poke fun of me if you want. Alright, let's try this again. Prepared to turn it off if I have to. Something's not good. Probably got a shorted or gassy tube here, and the easiest way to take care of that is do a tube check. The other thing, and I know this sounds dumb, it's not unusual for people in the past to have put the tubes in the wrong socket. And the fact that we have the rectifier and the output tube next to each other, I never see that. Usually they're on one side or the other, not like this. But anyway, I'll have to, hopefully the tag on the bottom of the case is still good. Otherwise, I'm going to have to look it up online. Oh, of course, most of it's missing here. Let's see. Front. I'm going to look it up on Radio Museum or something. Otherwise, I'm just guesstimating. But I'm going to test the tubes first because I get a feeling that's probably the problem here. Well, already, I think I might have found a problem. I'm going to test all the tubes anyway because I have my tube tester out. This is the 35W4, the rectifier. And when I start doing the short tests, it's intermittent, but it's there. The test's good, but you see that indicates failure. And it's interesting. I think this radio must have a lot of miles on it. You see just how burnt, crispy inside that tube looks. It's had a lot of hours on it. And it's possible that a lot of these other tubes are in the same boat. So, I know the rectifier is bad, so I'm going to get a new rectifier, but I'm just going to go through and test all of them. Okay, so I definitely had actually two shorted tubes. Both the rectifier and the output were shorted. I tested the rest of the tubes and they're fine. And I've solved the awful humming problem, but we got another issue. Hear that? And it doesn't matter where I tune on the dial. It's consistent. So, that is referred to something as silver mica disease. I'm not sure if this is a thing in other countries, but here in the US, about this time period, they would make these IF and RF transformers, and on the bottom they would have like a little, basically a either a disc or a square piece of mica, and there's essentially a capacitor that's formed in the middle of that. And I'm not sure if there's actually a silver element to it, but anyway, like I guess the silver, whatever it is, migrates, and it causes a short, which kills the radio signal. So I'm going to have to replace one or two of these guys. So that's all I can do for tonight. Alright, welcome to day number 2, and as we saw from last night, we have one of the IF or RF cans that has a bad cap in it. These are the undersides of the two transformers. We've got a 5-legger here and a 4-legger here. This is probably 455 kc. I'm too lazy to pull the schematic. I'm not sure what this other one is, because if it's got an extra leg, that probably indicates something different is amok. So, I've dug through my parts and I've got some replacements here. There is a way you can split the bases on these open, the plastic bases, and get the caps. The caps themselves, you see these little silver things running back and forth? That's the caps, and they tend to go bad with age. They used to never go bad, but now they're going bad more and more, which is kind of a pain in the ass. But what you do is, I'll take a picture of this to make sure I have a record of where all the wiring goes. And I'll desolder everything, and I'll pop this new one in. And you want to save this little brass clip here, so you can snap the new one in through these little keepers here. So I'm going to replace one, give it a test, see if that restores the signal, and if not, I'll replace the other one, and hopefully that'll solve it. Well, that must have been the defective transformer, this guy here. I replaced it and restored radio per se, but we got a little bit of a problem here. You see these fins here? They're super dirty. Yeah, you see that? These fins have got probably whiskers, like little tin whiskers in there, and these plates are rubbing up against each other, and that's killing my signal. So I need to come in here and clean that out. By the way, this thing has been on for a while. It smells like cigarettes. I guess everyone smoked back then. That makes sense. This thing is making a strange noise too. Oh, looky here. That's what that noise is. The cone's coming loose. I'll have to glue that back together again. No biggie. Alright, so cleaning the fins out did the trick here. We're firing on all cylinders again.
And was fascinated and horrified by what had happened.
See if you got it right. Take the checklist challenge today. Call.
The White House is accused.
So we expect to live in that kind of a situation. So, either way, the number.
Anyway, that speaker's rattling like crazy, so I'm going to put some glue in there. And the other thing that we need to do is, like, it's got most of its shitty old capacitors underneath, so we need to replace all those. And also, I'm going to mark my antenna wires here because I had to switch these back and forth a bunch until I figured out the right configuration. Excuse me, got the hiccups. And this seems to be it. So I'm going to color code these guys with some Sharpies, so I'll remember, well, if one of them comes loose, I'll know where it goes. And now the other thing I did, I should have showed this while I was working on it, but if you do some, if you do a transplant of a transformer, or even if you're doing a general overhaul of a set, it's not a bad idea to peek up your IF cans. Can't really see it, but inside is a little screw. And what I do is I turn it to a weak station, and then I will you twist these screws back and forth in there until you get like the cleanest sounding signal. And then you know the set is more tuned up. But I'm going to probably do that again because I have most of the old caps in here, and that too can affect the alignment. So again, I'm going to put some glue to put that back together again with, and then we'll proceed with more work underneath. Okay, so I was able to glue back speaker cone here. It's not going to come loose anymore. And you know what I do? Here's a little nifty trick that I use. Is when you put the glue behind your cone, turn it on and crank it up real loud on a station. And it'll vibrate the cone and get the glue really worked in real well. So now we need to replace the rest of these old wax capacitors. And so there's this one, this one, this one, this one. Yeah, there's like, how many? I guess a grand total of maybe 4 more. So not many. We're going to replace this guy, which is the grounding cap, with a safety cap. This isn't, see if the camera will pick it up. I can't read that. It's an X2 Y2 across the line cap. It's guaranteed to split open in the case of a catastrophic surge to the set, which is important. And we have a 0.05 rated cap here. Here's a 0.047, 0.02, blah, blah, blah. What I do is I clip one end and attach one lead one at a time, and you'll be fine. By the way, I've come to realize the microphone on this thing is really sensitive, so if you're hearing the annoying yapping dog down the street, then I'm sorry about that. I don't know what's gotten into that thing. Alright, so I got the rest of the caps replaced in here, and the only thing that's left to do is clean the pots. Those are these guys here. We got a tone and a volume pot. If you look down here where these little 3 legs are, there's a space in there. And you just want to get your little straw from your electronics contact cleaner, and you just squirt it in there, and you work it back and forth. And that flushes and cleans all the wiper and everything. So I'm going to test again, make sure it still works, and then I'm going to replace this crusty cord here. Quit filming! Alright, this seems to be working pretty well now.
We buy vacant homes, inherited homes, fixer-uppers, beautiful homes, townhouses, condos, and...
Alright, they buy all the homes, whatever. So, what I'm going to do now is take this over to the sink, because clearly it's got nicotine stains everywhere. Try not to get that too wet. That's probably just glued in there. No, it's held in there with little clips. Excuse me. So what I'll probably do is take those clips out of there and take that cardboard out. I'll take this over to the sink and use some Simple Green degreaser cleaner. And then I'll use some plastic polish to kind of bring the gloss and the shine back to this case. Alright, as predicted, the set kind of changed color. There was awful lot of nicotine stains on it. And so I cleaned it up. And I'm not sure what kind of plastic this is. It's not, I don't think it's Bakelite. It definitely has a tough Bakelite texture. But I don't know, I'm not a plastics guy. So I'm going to slowly go over it with my favorite material, Novus number 2, and an old sock. And you just want to kind of work it in nice and slow. I usually spend a little time in just a little small area. And of course an airplane is going by as soon as I decide to do this, but whatever, it's fine. Takes maybe a couple hours to do that. Then again, I haven't really polished this kind of plastic, especially red, before, so I'm curious what that's going to do. Some of the Bakelite type of plastics don't polish up very well, but we'll see. Welcome to day 3 of working on the Emerson, and this is after a few hours of using Novus plastic polish, and it came out real nice. And in fact, yesterday I took this over to the radio museum, and it was agreed that red Plaskon, or I'm not sure how you say it, that there was a brand of plastic called Plaskon, where, you know, the color goes all the way through the plastic, and it's not Bakelite, but it's pretty dense. We have not really seen one of these. I mean, I know they made probably a bunch, but we haven't seen one, and we don't have this model in this color, and so we're going to keep it as an actual museum display piece. And as such, I'm not going to add the audio input feature that I usually do. It's just going to be restored a la original. And so now that the chassis is done and the case is done, I'm going to put it back together again and then move on to the next radio. So it's nice that we will have a permanent home for it, and other people that like this kind of thing can come in and enjoy it just as much as we will. Alright, so it's all back together again. I kind of like this little jewel light. That must look pretty cool at night. I'm going to let it have its burn in. Usually I let these guys run for a few hours inside their cases, because all the heat is going to turn the inside like an oven. So if there's going to be any component failures after an overhaul, it's going to be probably then. But it's working pretty well here.
800-939-3046. 800-939-3046.
Thinking of selling your home? Before you do, listen to this.
And coverage, you know, all these things are
The authority in this community.
Judge.
Foundation to stand. Plus our unique perspective.
Anyway, it's a good working radio, and I enjoyed working on it. I've worked on quite a few of this model. Like I said, there's a ton of them in black and cream, but I've never seen one red. I kind of wonder what other colors they made, but it seems to work well with this styling. And like I said, this is going to be a display item, and so we look forward to having it in our collection. Anyhow, thanks so much for watching. As always, if you have any questions or comments, you can leave them down in the comment section below. And if you like this channel, you can press that like button. And until the next time that another radio comes across the bench, which is actually going to be today, we'll see you next time.